Welcome everyone to the Converge and welcome to our session. I'm Hrabcak and I'm Director of Product Management at Citrix, responsible for Microapps platform. And I have with me Tomas Werner, who is Director of Product Management here at Citrix as well. Today, we would like to talk a little bit about how to approach building microapps and microapps-based solution and setting them for success. As you already know, to build a successful cloud-based solution, it is not only about building it, but mainly about gaining the user adoption. Because we will lose the customer without the end users gaining the adoptions or having the adoption. You can build a lot of different microapps and microapps-based solution, but until there is an adoption from the end users, we can barely talk about a success. So let's talk and let us walk you through the couple of steps and the recommendations on how to approach it and how to set it for success. Can we start, Tomas?
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Rado, for a great introduction. My name is Tomas Werner, and I'm going to present some key aspects of building microapps which leads to success. Well, the key and very important thing to start with is to identify the right stakeholders and to gain their buy-in and support. You need to identify them first. Typically, those are HR departments running digital transformation projects, but not necessarily only HR departments. There can be other business stakeholders supporting digital transformations as well. You need to get them on board to be the good sponsors helping you further down, influencing other people in the organization, but also helping you to overcome the hurdles on the way. To build and keep healthy relations with them, you need to keep them engaged. You need to gain and retain their trust and inform them about the successes and potential problems as you identify them on the way, because in this journey there will be some problems to overcome, that's for sure. Another important thing is to actually to have a project and have a commitment for that project. You need to have a project and resources committed on customer end to support such activity. Having right stakeholders identified is definitely important thing to have, but those will not be driving the project and doing it and actually programming it. Hence, there must be resources available to support such initiative, and to set it for success, you need to have both buy-in and also resources for the project to be done. By iterating, you can report the progress on regular basis and manage expectations. You will detect obstacles early, and you can plan how to mitigate them with the transparency. Iterative development also allow you to get feedback quickly, learn your lessons. You can start very small and build value upon it, and make it work and scale with higher level of confidence. Success criteria. Bad expectations create disappointment, therefore you should focus on defining success criteria really thoughtfully and together with the customer. It is important to understand how to measure ROI, how much time of the employees using the microapps will save, define KPIs, measure NPS, work with customer on the business value definition, define milestones, define a lot of milestones, define and run pilot rollouts, and don't forget on UAT. You can define criteria which are quantitative, like user step savings, enterprise time savings, user time savings, annual frequency, or qualitative as, for example, value provided, improvements of experience, and multi-device urgency. I always encourage anyone to also define the user experience metrics like engagement, NPS, or specific metrics like about the, for example, mobile usage, how it has increased since the right use cases were introduced for that use case on mobile devices. You need to help customer to understand how to measure the value, as it can easily end up customer not rolling this out and not gaining the active use can lead to actually ending up the project. Think about metrics measuring how many employees will use microapps as opposed to using the old system. We understand this process is pretty challenging, maybe as much challenging as the implementation itself, maybe even more. Think about giving users the reason to come and use the workspace every day, and actually how to improve the users and their daily lives by providing them really great experience. Well, and the fun part here is that you should be also the explorer and discover a bit too. For a good understanding of customer situations, you should immerse into organization really well to understand its culture, business hurdles they struggle with, also to understand what could be the critical use case, which will nail it, and you should focus on. There are a couple of critical steps you should think about as a part of the discovery. For example, you can ask your customers and their users, how are you using Citrix today? Any cloud initiative in place currently? Are your users struggling to navigate into cloud and traditional resources, asking all day long, where do I find all my stuff? Are your users having trouble remembering login credentials in order to access their applications and cloud resources? It is of essence to know answers to those questions in order to build great use cases and great microapps for your customers and their users. You should also understand what system of record you would need to integrate with. Addressing which application the customer is currently using is an important piece of information needed for a successful deployment. You need to determine if Citrix Workspace Intelligence is a feasible option. Here you would need to weigh the cost and benefits of implementing a custom microapp and the business impact on the custom microapps. So if the customer has a use case that contains multiple custom applications and workflows, the implementation could be possible, but would require a too big effort to build it. Last, not the least, security and compliance. Security is one of the biggest bottlenecks of integrating microapps. We all had those meetings which took hours looking for solutions, how to actually integrate data. In order for workspace intelligence deployment to be successful, we need such security compliance. The way the legacy technology is created, the use of a service account with system privileges made actions on behalf of user, which creates a security risks. So we need to focus a lot on actually security.
Thank you, Tomas.
That's my piece. Rado, it's all yours.
Thank you. So now let's look closely on how to identify good use cases for the success. It is really important to find the use cases that will help employees to do something in more easy way, more efficient way than they were able to do before Workspace and Microapps. Also help them to prevent context switches that are productivity killers, organize the content and the data for them into a single piece to help them find those information in an easy way. Some good questions to ask during the customer conversations can be, for example, what are some of your critical use cases or critical problems your employees are dealing with? What do you see, or where do you see the room to increase the efficiency in your company processes? Is your IT help desk often flooded? So, for example, the answer can be a self-service IT solution that will enable employees to reset their passwords or unlock their accounts on their own without basically flooding the IT help desk. How are you submitting and tracking PTO requests? How are you submitting and tracking employee reviews? So all those questions can help you during the customer conversation to understand what can be the good candidates for the use cases that can help you building the successful solution for the customers. As Tomas has mentioned, it is also important to understand the systems that you will need to deal with and you will need to integrate with. So being able to integrate with those systems is another critical step in the journey for building towards successful solution. Because having the good use cases identified is great, but what if you are not able to, or what if the system doesn't provide good enough APIs? What is there, or what if there is no good developer documentation? So you basically will need to either doing a trial and failure, or basically you will get drawn into exploring the system APIs and endpoints in order to understand if it is even feasible to integrate and build for those use cases. Also, it is important to understand who owns this application and if this application owner will be willing to provide an access to the system APIs. And as you can see, it is not, or it is a very non-trivial effort that is important to think about as part of whole implementation process if you want to build for success. Another important piece that you need to think about and deal with is security. And security is typically the part or the component of this building process that basically slows down this whole process a lot. System that organizations are using, apart from the fact that they have different owners, you will need to deal with, and you will need to potentially use your stakeholders and good relationships with the stakeholders to convince the owners to provide you an access to those APIs. But also there are the security and compliance rules and regulations that will potentially slow you down, and anyone touching those systems needs to follow, or anyone dealing with whatever system in this organization needs to follow. So there are a couple of very important questions you should ask in order to understand customer security and compliance limitations and landscape. So there are things around the regulatory and compliance requirements. So if it comes to financial institutions, or if it comes to healthcare organizations, they operate in a heavily regulated environment. They need to follow a lot of compliance and regulations. So basically, this is one thing really important to understand. Also, it is important to understand and discuss with the organization, the owners, and compliance and security personnel, if it is okay for them to store data into cloud. Some of the organizations are not willing to do that. So it's also very important to understand that. Also, what is the process for requesting service accounts or access to the SaaS apps and the backend data, if it is even permitted or allowed in this organization? Will security team approve caching the data? So there is a lot of questions you need to go through during the customer conversation and have answers for them. It will, all those steps that we discussed through will basically help you to nail down and filter the use cases that are first engaging enough for their employees, feasible to do in terms of systems of records feasibility to build for, as well as security and compliance limitations and regulations that you potentially will need to overcome. So to wrap it up, it is pretty much obvious from the recommended steps enumerated before that such project will last from weeks to months, given the steps you need to go through, as well as their own non-trivial complexity. You also need to make sure you're building better employee experience as opposed to what the employees had, and to make their lives easier. Also, keep in mind and make sure that to keep customer and employees engaged. Think about giving users the reason to come to the workspace every day and use the microapps on the daily basis. Start small, define success criteria and milestones, keep adding more and more in an agile fashion so that you are able to adjust as you go and as you need. We wish you a lot of success with implementing microapps and workspace-based solutions to your customers. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask us on Slack. There is a dedicated channel, app-creation-and-collaboration. Feel free to email us or join our Q&A session and ask the questions live. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.